Is national political reporter for The Hill, Jonathan Swan. Jonathan, thank you for joining us. Lots to get to today. First, I want to ask you about Elaine Chao. She likely will be instrumental to the president-elect's plan for infrastructure. He's mentioned that as a big issue for him. But could her marriage to the Senate Majority Leader either help or possibly complicate those efforts?
It could do both, but I think the former, it will be more of a help. And Donald Trump and his team know very well that this infrastructure proposal, up to maybe $1 trillion spent on infrastructure, is not going to be received with full enthusiasm from the House caucus. I mean, we're going to see people like Bill Schuster, the chair of the Infrastructure and Transportation Committee, he's going to support it. There's a number of Republicans who are really in favour of major infrastructure investment. But when you look at the conservative wing of the House conference, there's going to be a number of people who, are more along the lines of purist economic conservatives. They're going to be quite resistant. So it can only be a help to Donald Trump to have somebody who can help him navigate these very complicated pathways on Capitol Hill.
I want to ask you also about Congressman Price. He's staunchly conservative. Fascinating, because he's a doctor, a surgeon, who many have said in the medical community he's sort of advocated dealing with issues of malpractice, trying to side with doctors. But what does his nomination signal for legislation, including the Affordable Care Act and even the funding of Planned Parenthood?
It's a very strong signal that Donald Trump is serious about repealing and replacing Obamacare. I've been having conversations off the record and on background with conservative leaders, frankly, who are worried that Donald Trump is not going to follow through on Obamacare. They're much more bullish that he's going to have quite an aggressive energy and environmental agenda, but they're worried from some of the things that he's said about wanting to keep the parts that he likes of Obamacare, that he's not really going to follow through. But by picking Tom Price, he's picking somebody who is absolutely trusted by the movement, the conservative movement, who has a record of detail. He led the RSC, the very conservative group within Republican Congress. So he has a track record of understanding the details and being absolutely doggedly committed to repealing and replacing Obamacare.
I want to turn. Sorry, Jonathan, you were saying?
Well, I was going to say, as for your second point, Planned Parenthood, look, this is a huge boon for the pro-life community. Marjorie Dannenfelser last night came out in support of Tom Price. She's the president of SBA List, one of the biggest voices in the pro-life movement. He has impeccable credentials with the social conservatives. I
want to turn now, though, to the Secretary of State. Trump tweeted that he was very impressed by the meeting with General Petraeus. But given his past controversies, what would his confirmation process look like? I mean, Trump was very aggressive about questioning Hillary Clinton dealing with classified information. How does Petraeus stand up to something like that?
It's pretty amazing, isn't it? Well, two things. One is, there was a source close to Donald Trump who predicted to me yesterday morning, they said, wait till he meets with Petraeus. He'll find out this guy knows more about the world than anyone he's meeting with. So I bet you, he's going to come away impressed. So that happened. But it would signal that, after spending a whole campaign saying that Hillary Clinton can't be trusted because she can't be trusted to handle classified information, well, that's obviously the very grounds upon which that brought about Petraeus's unraveling. So it would seem to be at odds with a large part of what he said during the campaign, and it's going to be an ugly confirmation if that actually happens. There'll be a lot of Democrats out to, avenge what happened during the campaign.
I mean, it's fascinating. So the arc of this was the man, Petraeus, who led the 101st Airborne into Iraq during the U.S. invasion in the last Iraq War. I mean, there was this huge issue with his handling of classified information that he passed off to his mistress and biographer. So do you think it's going to be a total uphill battle, or does he have a chance when it comes to the confirmation hearing?
It's going to be really ugly. There's going to be a lot of, well, firstly, Democrats are going to raise the fact that Trump used this as a bludgeon against Hillary Clinton, and, how can you then turn around and do this? And I think there's actually going to be some kind of independent-minded Republicans who will have similar concerns. So I think it will be a really complicated, that's not to say he wouldn't get confirmed. He's a guy who's widely respected, one of the deepest thinkers about the world and national security issues. So there are a lot of people who have a huge amount of respect for him, but it's going to be a very complicated confirmation.
I want to ask you before you go about Mitt Romney, the meeting today with the president-elect expected tonight. This comes amid backlash from Trump's inner circle over Romney being considered first state, most notably from his senior advisor, Kellyanne Conway. Jonathan, what is all of this about? Conway on the offensive about Romney, then Trump hosting him a private dinner. I mean, what's going on?
We are participating in a spectacle that Donald Trump has designed for our consumption. Donald Trump, I mean, look at the way he's conducted his campaign and the transition process. He builds moments of suspense. It's like a good reality show. You know, he even does it for moments that you wouldn't have thought suspense would be part of, such as, you know, saying that he believes the president was born in the United States. He built suspense around that moment. And what he's doing now, he enjoys watching these fights play out in public. He empowers people around him to enter the fray. He throws out little bombs on Twitter and sees how they go. You know, he teases the public by saying, you know, I'm very impressed with Petraeus. And of course, we all run around, you know, looking at the tea leaves. But what's really fascinating in Washington is, you know, I've been meeting with conservative leaders who they were supportive of Trump, but weren't necessarily and aren't in his inner circle. And they're trying to divine what his intentions are. They really don't know. So they're sort of doing what a lot of the media is doing, which is reading these public statements, trying to figure out what he means. And whether it's intentional or not, Donald Trump has created enormous confusion in this town. And, you know, today's a perfect example. We had media reports of Elaine Chao being for Transportation Secretary. I did the call-arounds to members of the House who I thought, because of their positions, would have known about this. And guess what? They didn't.
Wow, that's an interesting, telling detail. Jonathan Swan joining us from our Washington bureau. Thanks for joining us, John.
Pleasure.